We have to get inside. It's not safe out here.
I know. Stay close to me. I've got
The refugee settlement rested on the edge of a broken world, where metal towers leaned like tired giants, and the ground still carried scars from an old war. Ships came and went every week, carrying survivors, supplies, and silence. Most people here had learned not to look too closely at each other, because every face carried loss. The human widower lived near the outer ruins, far from the noise of the central camps. He had chosen this place because it was quiet, and quiet made the memories softer. Every morning he followed the same routine, checking power lines, fixing broken panels, and counting the hours until night returned. He had lost his family years ago during the evacuation wars, a wife who laughed easily, and a child who asked too many questions. Those memories stayed with him like shadows, never leaving, never speaking. That was why he noticed her. Across the cracked plaza, when no one bothered to build anything permanent, an alien girl worked alone. She was small compared to most species, her skin pale blue under the weak sun. She carried broken bricks one by one, stacking them carefully, even when they did not fit well. Every day, she returned to the same spot. Every day, she tried again. The widower first thought she was just another refugee child, playing among ruins. But this was not play. She worked with focus, adjusting each brick, stepping back, then moving it again. When a wall collapsed, she did not cry. She simply picked up the pieces and began again. The human found himself stopping more often during his work, pretending to check tools while watching her. He did not understand why this scene pulled at him so strongly. Maybe it was the way she worked without hope, yet without stopping. Maybe it reminded him of himself. Around them, the settlement ignored her. Some aliens whispered, others looked away. A few humans warned their children not to go near her. No one helped. One afternoon, strong wind swept through the ruins. The half-built structure shook, then fell apart completely, bricks scattering across the ground. The sound echoed loudly, turning a few heads. The girl froze, standing still among the rubble. For a moment, the widower thought she might finally break. Instead, she slowly knelt down and began picking up the bricks again. Her movements were slow now, heavy, but steady. Something inside the widower cracked open. He remembered standing in the ruins of his old home, holding nothing but silence. He remembered rebuilding his life piece by piece, even when it felt pointless. That night, he could not sleep. He kept seeing the girl's small hands lifting bricks too heavy for her size. He wondered why she was alone, why she needed a house when shelters already existed. Most of all, he wondered why no one else seemed to care. The next day, he brought extra water with him. He told himself it was just practical. The heat was rising. But when he passed her, he slowed down. The girl looked up, startled, ready to flee. He stopped a safe distance away, raising the water container slightly. She stared at it, unsure, then at him. No words passed between them. Finally, she accepted the water, her hands trembling slightly. She nodded once, a quiet gesture of thanks. That single moment felt heavier than any conversation. The widower walked away, but something had already changed. Later that day, whispers spread through the settlement. Some spoke of her species, old war records, dangerous abilities. Others claimed she should not be allowed to build anything permanent. Fear moved faster than truth. As the sun lowered, the widower returned to his shelter. From his doorway, he could still see her working in the fading light, brick by brick, alone against the ruins. He made a decision then, a small one, but one that scared him more than he expected. Tomorrow, he would speak to her. Tomorrow, he would help. What he did not know was that tomorrow would bring far more than a conversation. It would bring attention, conflict, and choices that could change both their lives forever. And if you want to stay with the story and see how a simple choice can change an entire world, gently consider subscribing to this channel, because this is only the beginning. Morning arrived slowly over the refugee settlement, light spreading across broken metal and old scars. The human widower woke earlier than usual, his mind already restless. He told himself he was only going to check the power grid near the ruins, nothing more. But his steps carried him back to the cracked plaza. She was already there, The alien girl knelt beside her unfinished house, carefully cleaning dust from the bricks she had collected the day before. She noticed him instantly this time. Her body tensed, ready to run. The widower stopped and lowered his hands, showing he carried no tools, no weapons. He sat down on a broken slab of concrete a short distance away. He did not speak. Silence felt safer than words. Minutes passed. The girl slowly returned to her work. Brick by brick, she rebuilt the wall that had fallen. Her movements were careful, almost respectful, as if each brick mattered more than its weight. The widower watched quietly. He noticed how she tested every brick before placing it, how she adjusted angles again and again, searching for balance. She was not just building, she was learning. After some time, he stood and walked closer. He pointed gently at a weak corner of the wall, then at the ground. With slow motions, he showed how deeper support could help. He picked up a stone, pressed it into the dirt, then placed a brick on top. The girl watched with wide eyes. She copied his actions carefully. When the brick stayed firm, she looked at him again, this time with something new in her expression. Hope. They worked side by side for a while. Still no words, only small gestures and shared focus. Around them, others began to notice. A pair of aliens stopped walking to watch. A human technician frowned, whispering something into a communicator. Eyes followed every movement. The widower felt the weight of those stares. Helping her felt simple, but he knew nothing in this place stayed simple for long. As the structure grew stronger, the girl reached into a small pouch she carried. She removed a thin metal piece, shaped like a symbol. Carefully, she pressed it into the wall near the entrance. The widower tilted his head, curious. She tapped her chest, then pointed to the symbol. Family. Home. The word did not need sound. The widower felt it hit deep inside him. He thought of his own lost home, now dust somewhere among the stars. Later that day, an announcement echoed through the settlement. A message from the Refugee Council. All construction outside designated zones would be reviewed. Unauthorized structures would be removed. The girl froze when she heard it. Her hands tightened around a brick. Fear returned to her eyes, stronger than before. The widower felt anger rise quietly inside him. This house was small, harmless. Why did it threaten them so much? As night approached, security drones drifted closer to the ruins. Their lights scanned the ground slowly, deliberately. The girl worked faster now, her breathing uneven. The widower moved between her and the nearest drone. He stood tall, silent, unarmed. The drone paused, scanning him instead, then moved on. That moment sealed something between them. Trust. After sunset, she finally spoke. Her voice was soft, broken by an accent shaped by another world. She said her name, quietly, as if sharing a secret. Then she pointed to him, waiting. He hesitated, then said his name as well. It felt strange, like opening a door he had kept locked for years. From the shadows, someone watched them, not with curiosity, but with calculation. A report was sent, marked urgent. Species identified. Human involvement confirmed. As the widower walked back to his shelter, he sensed it. The calm between them was fragile. Tomorrow would not be as quiet. Behind him, the girl remained beside her half-built house. For the first time, she was not completely alone. But for the first time, danger was also getting closer. The next morning did not arrive quietly. Sirens echoed through the refugee settlement before the sun fully rose. Red warning lights washed over broken walls and tired faces. The human widower stepped outside his shelter, already feeling that something had shifted during the night. People gathered in small groups, whispering, pointing toward the ruins. Security drones hovered lower than usual, their movements sharp and alert. Across the plaza, the alien girl stood beside her half-built house, frozen. Two enforcement officers approached her slowly, their armor marked with council symbols. They did not speak to her at first. They spoke into their devices, recording, scanning, judging. The widower felt his chest tighten. He moved closer, ignoring the looks thrown his way. When one officer raised a hand to stop him, he stopped, but did not step back. The officers finally spoke. They stated that her species had been officially reclassified overnight. Historical war data had been reviewed. Potential threat level elevated. The girl did not understand all the words, but she understood the tone. Fear drained the color from her face. The officer pointed at the house. Unauthorized structure. Symbolic claim. Possible intent. The widower clenched his fists. He spoke calmly, explaining it was a shelter, nothing more. He explained she had harmed no one, that she was only trying to survive. The officers listened without reacting. Then one of them turned, projecting an image into the air. A war recording. Cities burning, ships destroyed, entire populations erased. The species matched the girl. Older, stronger versions of her kind. Weapons glowing with power. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Fear rose like smoke. Someone shouted that she should be removed. Another voice said she should never have been allowed here. The girl stepped back slowly. Her hands lifted, palms open, a universal sign of surrender. Her voice trembled as she tried to speak. The words came out broken, unsure. The widower stepped forward then, placing himself between her and the officers. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He said one thing only. She is not your history. That sentence seemed to anger the crowd more than calm it. Someone threw a piece of debris, missing her by inches. Security moved instantly, pushing people back. The council made its decision quickly. The house would be dismantled by the end of the cycle. The girl would be relocated to a containment shelter. Human contact would be restricted. The girl looked at the house, at the bricks she had placed with care, at the symbol pressed into the wall. Family. She reached out, touching it one last time. Her shoulders shook, but no sound came out. The widower felt something break inside him. This was not protection. This was punishment. As the officers escorted her away, she turned back once. Her eyes met his. There was confusion there, and hurt, but also something else. Trust that had not yet died. That night, the settlement felt colder. The house stood unfinished, silent. Bricks scattered like bones across the ground. The widower returned to the ruins long after curfew. He knelt beside the broken structure, picking up a fallen brick. It was lighter than it looked, fragile. Just like her. Behind him, a voice spoke from the darkness. You should not get involved. He turned to see a council observer, cloaked and unreadable. The observer warned him quietly. Humans had a reputation. For attachment. For defiance. The observer said the council feared what humans inspired. Hope where control was preferred. Family where division kept order. The widower stood, holding the brick. He said humans rebuild, even when the world tells them not to. The observer left without another word, but the warning lingered, heavy and sharp. Elsewhere, inside the containment shelter, the alien girl sat alone. The walls were clean, strong, and empty. No bricks, no symbols, no meaning. She pressed her hands together, eyes closed. For the first time, faint lines of light traced across her skin. Energy pulsed, subtle and controlled. A power she had sworn never to use again. Outside, unseen forces began to move. Old enemies detected weakness. Signals crossed the stars. A quiet place had been noticed. The world that did not forgive was preparing to test them both. The containment shelter was clean, bright, and empty. The alien girl sat in the center of the room, her legs pulled close to her chest. This place was safe by council standards, but safety without choice felt like another kind of cage. She listened to the distant hum of machines and voices she could not understand. Her thoughts returned again and again to the unfinished house, to the bricks, to the human who had stood in front of her without armor or power. Across the settlement, the human widower did not sleep. He sat at a small table covered in old tools and data pads. Council rules scrolled across the screen. Relocation laws, containment clauses, exceptions written in cold language. He read them all. Humans had learned long ago that systems could be challenged. Not with anger, but with persistence. At first light, he requested a formal review. The request was denied within minutes. He requested again, citing humanitarian clauses. Denied again. So he changed tactics. He visited the medical wing, speaking with alien doctors who had treated the girl. She was young, underdeveloped, non-aggressive. No combat implants, no weapon scars. Facts were logged quietly. He spoke with engineers. The house she built posed no structural threat. No power draw, no signal boost, no defense grid. Just walls. Every conversation added weight. Every quiet agreement became a piece of a larger argument. Meanwhile, the council chamber prepared for a closed session. Observers from multiple species gathered. Holograms displayed images of old wars and burning worlds. Fear was easier to show than context. The girl was brought in under guard. She stood small beneath towering projections of her own species. She did not recognize the monsters shown, but she felt their shadow fall over her. The widower arrived moments later, uninvited. Security moved to stop him. A senior council member raised a hand, curious. Humans were rarely quiet when told no. The widower did not argue at first. He placed a single brick on the council floor. A brick from the unfinished house. He explained how she had lifted each one alone. How she rebuilt without complaint. How she never asked for protection, only space. He spoke of human history. Of cities rebuilt after fires, floods, wars. Of families formed not by blood, but by choice. He said humans did not fear builders. They feared destroyers. And she had shown only creation. The chamber remained silent. Some council members looked away. Others leaned forward. Then an alarm cut through the room. A long-range sensor alert. Unidentified signals entering the outer system. Military advisors spoke quickly. Old enemies. The same faction that once hunted the girl species. Scavengers who erased refugees before they could rebuild. Panic rippled through the council. Defense systems were weak. Resources stretched thin. In the containment room, the girl felt it before the alarms reached her. Her skin glowed faintly again. She pressed her hands to the floor, steadying herself. She knew those signals. They were coming because of her. Back in the chamber, the widower spoke again, his voice steady. He said the council feared what they did not understand. But humans had learned that fear never saved anyone. He offered a solution. Release her. Let her help. Let the builder build more than walls. The council hesitated. To trust her was to admit they were wrong. Outside, defense sirens began to sound. Time was running out. The girl took one step forward, then another. She raised her hands, light forming carefully, controlled. Not a weapon, a shield. She spoke clearly now, her voice stronger than before. She said her kind did not only destroy. They protected what they loved. The chamber watched as the light stabilized, gentle but powerful. Proof standing in front of them. The council made a rushed decision. Temporary release, supervised cooperation. No guarantees. The widower moved instantly, standing beside her, not as a guard, but as support. As they left the chamber together, alarms echoed louder. Ships drew closer. The unfinished house waited in the ruins. Brick by brick, choice by choice. The world was about to learn what humans did best when everything was falling apart. The ruins felt different after the council decision. Not safer, just quieter, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The alien girl returned to the cracked plaza under escort. But this time, the guard stayed back. They watched ready, unsure. The unfinished house stood exactly where she had left it, broken but waiting. She walked toward it slowly. Her fingers brushed the familiar bricks. The symbol, still pressed into the wall, remained untouched. Family. The human widower stood a few steps behind her. He did not rush forward. Trust was not something humans forced. It was something they earned. She picked up the first brick. Then another. Her hands shook, not from weakness, but from memory. He knelt beside her. Without words, he began clearing debris. Old metal, dust, fragments of a broken world. They worked together in silence. Hours passed. The structure rose again, stronger than before. Each brick placed carefully. Each movement shared. From a distance, others watched. At first with suspicion, then with curiosity. A young alien child approached, hesitating. The girl paused, unsure. The widower smiled gently and stepped aside, making space. The child placed a small stone near the wall, then ran away, laughing nervously. The girl stared at the stone. Something warm spread through her chest. That night, the girl finally spoke more. Her words slow, chosen carefully. She explained that her people built homes to remember those they lost. Every brick carried a name. Every wall carried a story. The widower listened. He shared his own loss, quietly. How silence had filled his life after his family was gone. How watching her build had reminded him that silence could be broken. The air shifted between them. Not friendship yet. Something deeper. Recognition. But beyond the settlement, danger crept closer. Unidentified ships crossed the outer boundary. Defense stations powered up, old and unreliable. Scouts reported movement. Not an attack yet. A test. Inside the ruins, the girl sensed it again. A pull in her chest. A warning she could not ignore. She told the widower the truth. Her kind were known not just for building, but for shaping energy. For turning intention into structure. Creation and defense came from the same source. She had hidden this because power always attracted fear. Fear always attracted violence. The widower nodded. Humans understood that lesson too well. Together, they reinforced the house. Not just with bricks, but with grounding lines, energy anchors hidden beneath the soil. The house was becoming something more. Above them, a council drone hovered, recording everything. Data streamed live. Observers argued, questioned, doubted. Then the first shot came. Not at the settlement, but into empty space nearby. A warning from the approaching enemy. Siren screamed again. People ran. Shelters filled. Panic spread. The girl stood still, eyes glowing faintly. She placed her hands on the house wall. Light flowed through the bricks, steady and calm. The widower stood beside her. He should have been afraid. Instead, he felt certain. The house shimmered, not as a weapon, as a shield. Energy spread outward, forming a barrier over the plaza. Strong enough to stop debris. Strong enough to protect. From orbit, the enemy ships paused. Confused. This was not the broken refuge they expected. Inside the shield, people stared in disbelief. Fear slowly turning into hope. The girl lowered her hands, exhausted but standing. The widower supported her, without thinking. Trust was no longer fragile. It was real. In the distance, the enemy ships adjusted formation, preparing for something bigger. Brick by brick, trust by trust. A house had become a promise, and promises were something humans had always been willing to fight for. The sky above the refugee world darkened as enemy ships moved into full view. Their shapes blocked the stars, massive and cold. Old war machines returned to finish what history had left unfinished. Sirens howled across the settlement. Emergency lights flickered. People ran in every direction, clutching children, data pads, memories they could not leave behind. The shield over the plaza shimmered again as the first real attack began. Energy blasts struck its surface, spreading light like ripples across water. The house held. For now. Inside the shield, the alien girl collapsed to one knee. The power drained her faster than she expected. Her breathing became shallow. Fear crept in, not for herself, but for everyone behind her. The human widower knelt beside her, supporting her weight. He spoke calmly, grounding her, reminding her she was not alone. Humans had learned long ago that calm could exist even inside chaos. Across the settlement, defense towers activated. Old human tech mixed with alien designs. Imperfect, patched together, but functional. The council issued orders rapidly. Hold positions, protect civilians, delay as long as possible. Enemy fighters descended through the atmosphere. Small, fast, merciless. They targeted power grids, communication hubs, anything that kept the settlement alive. The widower made a choice. He handed the girl to a medic and stood. If the shield failed, people would need more than hope. He joined a group of human volunteers, engineers, pilots, workers. None of them soldiers. All of them stubborn. They moved through service tunnels beneath the ruins, carrying tools, not weapons. Plans formed quickly, adapted constantly. Humans were good at one thing above all else. Improvising when everything went wrong. Above ground, the shield flickered under continuous fire. Cracks of light appeared across its surface. The girl felt it weakening. She pushed herself back to her feet, ignoring the pain. She placed her hands on the ground again, drawing deeper energy. Something older, more dangerous. The medic shouted warnings. The girl did not answer. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. In orbit, enemy commanders noticed a change. This was no longer a simple refuge. This was resistance. They focused fire on the plaza. A final strike meant to shatter morale. Below, humans finished their work, redirecting power, overloading generators, not to attack, but to reinforce. Energy surged through the ground, feeding the house. The shield stabilized, stronger than before. Not perfect, but enough. The widower emerged from the tunnel as debris rained down. He ran back toward the plaza, ignoring falling metal and fire. He reached the girl just as the shield flared violently. The impact threw them both to the ground. Dust filled the air, screams echoed. When the light faded, the shield still stood, damaged, flickering, but standing. Cheers broke out from behind it, shaky and disbelieving. Hope fragile but alive. The enemy ships hesitated again. They had expected fear. They had expected collapse. Instead, they found humans. Refugees, builders, widowers, children, standing together behind a house made of bricks and belief. The girl looked at the widower, tears mixing with light on her face. She whispered that she could not hold much longer. He nodded. Then he did something the council had never planned for. He opened a public channel, broadcasting to every ship, every species. He spoke plainly. No threats, no pride. He said this world was broken, but it was home, that they had nothing left to lose, and everything left to protect. He said humans did not win wars by being the strongest. They survived by refusing to stop. Silence followed. Then movement. The enemy fleet began to pull back, slowly, cautiously. Not defeated, but uncertain. The attack was over. For now. The girl finally collapsed, her energy spent. The widower caught her before she hit the ground. Around them, the settlement stood battered but alive. Humanity had been tested, and once again, it had refused to break. The sky slowly cleared as enemy ships vanished into the dark. Smoke drifted across the refugee settlement, mixing with quiet disbelief. For a long time, no one spoke. The house still stood at the center of the ruins, cracked, glowing faintly, but unbroken. A small structure that had held against the weight of fear and fire. The alien girl lay unconscious beside it, her skin pale, the light finally gone. Medics worked quickly, carefully. They had never treated someone like her before, but they tried anyway. The human widower did not move from her side. He ignored council members, ignored questions, ignored praise. All that mattered was her breathing, slow but steady. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, casting light over the damage. Broken towers, burned ground, shattered machines, and people, still alive, still standing. When the girl finally opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was the house. The second thing was the human sitting beside her, exhausted, unmoving. She tried to speak, but no sound came. He noticed immediately, leaning closer. "You did enough," he said softly. "You saved everyone." Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head weakly. She pointed toward the house, then to the people gathering nearby. Together, she meant. The council arrived soon after, not with guards, not with orders, but with silence. The senior council members studied the house for a long time, studied the humans repairing damage around it, studied the aliens helping beside them. They admitted what had been difficult to say before. They had been wrong. Fear had blinded them. The house was no longer unauthorized. It was declared protected ground, a symbol of unity. The girl listened quietly, her hand gripping the edge of the blanket. She did not smile. Not yet. Days passed. The settlement began to rebuild, not just structures, but trust. Humans taught others how to reinforce walls. Aliens shared energy techniques. Children carried bricks too small to matter, but important all the same. The house grew stronger. More rooms, thicker walls, deeper foundations. Not just for one, but for many. One evening, as the sun dipped low, the girl stood again beside the house. She placed a new symbol into the wall, larger than the first. This one meant family shared. The widower stood beside her, unsure. She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was warm, certain. Later, a formal document arrived. Guardianship status approved. Not ownership. Belonging. The widower read it twice, then set it down, his hands shaking. He had lost a family once. He had never believed he would be trusted with one again. That night, they sat together inside the house. The walls hummed softly with energy. Safe, calm. She asked him why he had stayed, why he had stood in front of her when everyone else stepped back. He answered honestly, because when he saw her building, he remembered how humans survived, not by running, but by rebuilding. Outside, the settlement lights glowed brighter than before. Ships arrived carrying aid instead of fear. Stories spread across systems. A house built by a child, defended by a widower, protected by a community that chose hope over history. The girl leaned against him, tired but peaceful. For the first time since the war, she slept without fear. As the stars came out, the widower looked at the house one last time. He understood now. A house was never just walls. It was choice. It was trust. It was love built slowly, brick by brick. And in a broken universe, that was the most human thing of all.